Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the Daily Market Insight for Thursday, the 9th of November. All right, now, not a lot to sort of go off, and it's been one of those funny weeks. I've been saying it since Monday. You know, very strange sort of week as far as the economic numbers go. No big US numbers and sort of peripheral numbers across the board. So dollar steady against the euro, yen on intervention watch. Well, you know what? They're saying that because there's nothing else really going on, and they need to be sort of putting something out there. Now, dollar yen, well, it's back up there, right? And that's where you sort of start to think, well, what's the BOJ doing? Well, I think they've done what they can. But if you want to have a look at what the trading has been like this week, right, it's mixed, right? You can see dollar Swiss here trading sideways, a little bit down, a little bit up, through just drifting through that weak support resistance line. Nothing really going on. And the price action here across the board, it doesn't really give you anything tangible that you can really rip your teeth into, right? And that's what we're doing. Like non-farm payrolls were weaker. Yeah, we've had a retracement. That's perfect. If anything, I'm still thinking the dollar falls from here, but we need a catalyst, right? And that's what we need from the economic numbers. Now, just having a look on the overall global markets, equity markets, okay, doing the exact same thing, marking time. Right, they're marking time until we get the big answer that tells us whether the dollar goes up or down, and that's where it is. The big mover obviously has been oil, or maybe not obvious for everyone, down to 75 bucks. It's right on a support trend line. So, you know what? I mean, it's been on borrowed time. You know, OPEC and everything else that's going on in the Middle East, it's been elevated artificially. So I can see it going a lot lower. Gold also starting to roll over there as well. And the rest of the pairs, well, crypto is slowly heading higher, right? Not with a lot of confidence, but it's working that way. Okay, so what do we got to look for today? Now, when you come back to the markets, you want to sort of really tune into, you know, what's going on, right? So the first thing I would look at is I'd get up my sort of major template here. I can just get the pen back up. Have a look what's sort of going through the market. At the moment, okay, US equity futures are going down. Asian equity futures are up, right? There's a bit of a disconnection. This is more like normal conditions, right? If anything, the price of the US bonds is up, which means the yields are drifting lower, right? Which would suggest a weaker dollar. But check out the sort of the currencies here. There's no uniform outcome here across all of the currencies. In actual fact, if I come over to the main page and just change it to the FX template, you can see here, right, the US dollar relative strength. It's mixed across the board. There's no rhyme or reason here to what is actually going on. And that, you know what, that should be like, not necessarily an alarm bell, but it should sort of ring some sort of bell in your head, thinking that, you know what, everything's not normal at this point, right? Yields lower, you'd think the US dollar would be lower, but it's generally not behaving like that on the currencies. Okay, commodities, well, as I mentioned, oil and gold drifting lower, and the yen up. It's all a little bit interesting, but with nothing really, as I like to say, you can hang your hat on or rip your teeth into. So let's have a look what we've got coming out that may give us an easy trading opportunity or provide some momentum, right? Well, we'll get the Chinese inflation numbers, okay? Very important for Aussie and Kiwi. Coming down to the US session, the weekly initial jobless claims, worth a look. You know, we've seen a $5,000 or $10,000 variance here sort of impact the dollar. It's worth keeping an eye on. Jerome Powell, he'll be speaking as well. That's probably one of the key things that you want to look at, as well as Christine Lagarde, right? The ECB president. So they're the two things, speeches, right? When I see the calendar and speeches that are dominating, right, I take a back seat, because in a speech, they can talk things up, they can talk things down, and it can get a little bit convoluted, right? So that's tricky. And so, but to me, if you're in the Asian session and you're awake, well, check out those inflation numbers, right? Now, the situation is, it's not just a matter of checking out the inflation numbers. You need to sort of factor in exactly what's going on the instruments that it's going to impact, like the Aussie and Kiwi, right? If anything, the RBA raised rates, it's dropped off. If anything, the sort of momentum for me on the Aussie is down at this point. But once again, we don't have a uniform risk on, risk off profile. Kiwi also sort of drifting lower there as well. You know what? If we got strong jobless claims numbers, then there's a good chance the dollar will sort of rally a little bit further, and that could really push the Aussie and Kiwi down further, depending on these Chinese inflation numbers. Now, my concern is if I was looking at these numbers, let me just drag this across, and if we got strong numbers here, what does that do for me? Okay, how's the picture? How does that line up for me? So if I was looking at that, well, I'd come back and start looking at, say, the Aussie here, and I'm like, okay, strong numbers, that goes up, but the whole momentum is rolling over to the downside, right? So strong Chinese numbers, yeah, it might come back just a touch, but it's not going to go too far, right? I know it's a little bit oversold at the moment. Unless the Chinese numbers are massively strong, I can't see it doing too much. But you know what? If the numbers are weak, well, then I can see further downside in the Aussie and Kiwi for that matter. All right, that's probably the best pick of it for the Asian session. As we come into the European and North American sessions, obviously keep a very close eye on the two big central bank heads, okay, and actually SMB Moser there as well, and these jobless claims, right? It's the only real thing that we can sort of keep an eye on, right, as we go through this next 24 hours. Like next week's completely different, and in actual fact, you can start having a look through that, and you can see all the gorgeous stuff. In particular, the Tuesday US CPI inflation numbers. That's going to be a gangbuster, right? So you want to make sure you've got some cash in your account for that. If you're looking like the so-called BOJ watch, have a look at the end crosses. They are trending gorgeously to the top side. Obviously, any sort of intervention, all of these things would go down, and we've got levels here to get in, right? It's a matter of either setting up a pending order or waiting for it to happen. I'm not holding my breath. I can't see it happening. I've already been taken out once on a false break to the downside. You know what? So I'm sort of sitting a little bit tight on that. All right, guys, that's it for me. All the best. Cheerio.